Good morning to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion for Friday, the 15th of September, 2017. And to say that the tropics are busy is an understatement, but it is mid-September, and the tropics are supposed to be busy. They are a little bit busier than normal. Maybe you could argue that a lot busier than normal. So let's take a look at the players out there. We have Tropical Storm Jose, soon to become a hurricane again, I do believe. We have Invest Area 96L. I think that's what this is called. And this is probably going to go on to develop and be an impact to the Lesser Antilles in a few days. And then we have Tropical Depression number 14, and this will also develop, probably becoming Tropical Storm Lee later today. So those are the different areas that we are going to be watching. And if we look at the forecast map for Jose from the 5 o'clock advisory, you notice a decent amount of the East Coast here, including portions of the North Carolina Outer Banks up to Cape Cod, so Cape Hatteras and Cape Cod, and all points in between now in that cone of uncertainty. And so this should be your indication up here that it's time to start thinking hurricane supplies and just being ready. Maybe get some extra gas, a couple of cans, just to have some extra supplies on hand. The forecast has been shifting to the west with time. I mean, you remember, just a couple of days ago, this looked like it was just going to curve out to sea and not be an issue, but that is beginning to change because of the high pressure that's sitting out over the Atlantic, and there really aren't any major troughs coming in. It's just a squeeze play between the high pressure over the Atlantic and a little bit of a weakness in between it and the high pressure sitting over the continental United States. So that's what the 5-day forecast looks like, and I believe that at some point in here this will become a Category 3 again. The water temperatures definitely support that, and as you'll see here on the satellite animation, it is starting to get better organized. It's got a better robust look to it. The shear is starting to abate. This is 96L. This is soon to be Tropical Storm Lee. This one would become Maria. And I really do think that you folks here in the islands are going to have an impact from this. Exactly where, yet to be determined. But remember, it's all of this cloud mass, and this is probably going to be a large tropical cyclone just looking at the overall envelope of energy here. And so a huge area could be impacted anywhere, certainly from the Trinidad and Tobago area, possible. More than likely Barbados and points north and west from there, St. Lucia, Dominica. It's your turn again, unfortunately, in the next few days, and I will focus more and more on this with time as we deal with Jose as well. There's enough mark to go around that we can cover all this. I'm not so much worried about what will likely become Lee, as I think that it'll eventually turn and find a weakness out here and escape without any impact on the any land areas in the western part of the basin. So let's go back over to the Hurricane Center's homepage and look in the Eastern Pacific real quick. Max is now inland and is no longer really a trackable feature, but we do have Norma, and Norma is on its way to becoming a hurricane, and that's going to threaten the Baja Peninsula here over the next few days, and certainly the possibility of hurricane conditions as this comes up and delivers a lot of rainfall to this region. So if you have plans along the Baja, Cabo San Lucas and vicinity, be mindful that this is out there. Maybe even some of that moisture works its way up into the southwest United States. We'll keep an eye on that as well. All right, so the Eastern Pacific satellite loop, this is a non-event. Don't worry about it. This is Norma. And again, with some of this westerly wind flow up here, as Norma gets close, some of that moisture could get pulled into the southwest United States, the Texas Panhandle, parts of New Mexico. So be ready for that. That could be problematic. Just a wider perspective here. Here's number 14, TD14, 96L. I may have called that 15 earlier, but whatever. I don't even know anymore sometimes. I said there's enough mark to go around, but I'm not always going to be 100%. 97 is a good number to shoot for. So this is 96L here, and you can see the potential development area and the fact that unfortunately, this could have some impacts on the islands that were devastated by Irma. So we're going to have to watch this very closely and make sure people down here are advised as to what's going on. I'll be talking over social media, different apps with Micro Farrow. He's a gentleman down in St. Bartolome. I'll be keeping him up to date, and he's keeping people up to date from there. And of course, we'll be watching Jose here. So it's friggin' busy in the tropics for sure. This is just crazy. Looking at the modeling from the 6Z run, we'll have a 9Z model suite. And these are just your hurricane models. Some of them are statistical models. Some of them are more dynamic global models and model means. But the idea is just to look for the overall clustering or lack thereof. And I think you get the general thought here that for the most part, the modeling is bringing this up close to southeast New England. And I think this will shift west just a little bit more. And there's a decent chance now. What does that mean? It's hard to put a number on it, but increasing odds that something from Jose, direct impacts, could be felt along the mid-Atlantic. Certainly even Hatteras over here. I mean, if this comes back even more west and then turns up, we could have direct impacts along the North Carolina coast, Virginia, the Delmarva region, Atlantic City, you name it. And, we're going to still have swells coming out from this system, emanating off to the northwest and impacting the beaches up here for several days. And those are just going to increase. So we're already having indirect impacts. And remember, you can go to weather.gov, and let me just show you that real quick. I want to show you what these look like. You go to weather.gov, and you can see sort of this purplish color here. There are some hazard statements up here. I'm sorry, that's a small craft advisory. My fault. It's this one right here. A beach hazards statement. Right now, the only one up is for portions of the Carteret County, North Carolina area, maybe over into Jones County. It's hard to tell. But this is out of the Weather Service Office, WFO, in Morehead City. But the bottom line is you can go in here and you can put your zip code into the weather.gov homepage or anywhere in there, and you get that information, and it'll show up on this little return page here. So read that if you're headed to the beach. It's important. It can save your life or back or neck injury from the shore break. Surfers are going to love it, but for swimmers, kids, older folks that just, they're not used to big waves like that. And even, 46-year-old dudes like me, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. All right, so before we set the stage as to what Jose might do, and I'm going to talk about Jose for the rest of today's discussion, because it is the next imminent threat to land. The sea surface temperature profile, this was updated just a couple of days ago, so it's fairly current. Basically, everything south of this blue line is generally warm enough at the skin of the ocean surface there, the top layer, for hurricanes to maintain themselves. Now, you see New England up here and parts of the Northeast and in general, Long Island, and then you have Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. And you say, well, the water temperatures in here are certainly much colder for something to sustain itself, and that is absolutely true. So I'm not worried about a fast-moving hurricane coming up screaming out of the tropics, moving north-northeast at 25 miles per hour, that's a Category 4 here, and hits up here as a 2. That's not what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is that this does develop more over the very warm waters, and you can see that even the Gulf Stream right up here, 28 degrees Celsius, and so it becomes strong, maybe a Cat 3, and then you don't have that much distance between the wall of the Gulf Stream and a potential landfall or a close brush up here, that it would still put significant wind and surge into the area. People need to realize the overall impact, not just, we can down to a Category 1, I'm not going to worry about it. Well, that is just foolish. You can have a huge fetch of wind really piling up the ocean through here, and enormous waves. Generally speaking, people in New England understand hurricanes, but they may not necessarily appreciate the impacts if they haven't been through one in a while. And the last significant event was Bob back in 1991. So let's see what happens. Let's see what the forecast track holds over the next 48 hours or so. I think we're going to know, does this come up and get even closer to the Outer Banks and then turn out like that? Does it come up and stay up and come right into the Bight area, that very dangerous spot for surge. There are a lot of possibilities here. And you remember, we went from, oh yeah, it's going to curve out to sea, to the models are now in the official forecast track generally aiming this towards the northeast, okay? And the upper ocean heat content, it doesn't go up to here, unfortunately, but you can see this little tongue right in here. If I take the telestration away, there is some deeper, warmer water as you move north out of the deep tropics there. So Jose has a chance to strengthen and have energy coming in that would be translated into the ocean. And so I'd be worried about big waves, storm surge, some wind problems, but not any kind of pressure records being set or anything like that. The rest of the tropical Atlantic, obviously very, very warm, especially entering the Caribbean, exceptionally so. All right, so let's take a look now at the European. This is the 0Z run off of Levi Cowan's website, tropicaltidbits.com there. And so the euro, we're going to just look at these separately. The euro, this is the initial, and then we go out to 24 hours, and then we go out to 48 hours, 72, and then finally, watch what happens between 72 and 96 here. Instead of fading east, it's going north, and maybe even slightly west of north. And that's getting it close enough to the Cape Hatteras area that you could experience tropical storm conditions Monday night. Okay, so keep that in mind. Pretty strong northwest winds coming through here, and yeah, so we got to see. And think about any correction more to the west here. Let's say the low pressure center is right here. Then you could really get the potential for hurricane force winds onshore. So this is getting to be close. And then finally, from 96 to 120, it does start to fade a little bit to the east. And from 120 to 144, day 6, it's just south and east of the Cape Cod, by a comfortable distance. And then, interestingly enough, at day 7 here, it goes south, and eventually it tries to loop back around and comes in. And so here's the problem. Don't worry about this for the moment, okay? Forget that this is there. I want you to look at that. And you say, well, what is that? Well, that is a tall mountain of air in the atmosphere is the best way to put it. That's the ridge building in. This is 7 days out. All right, so let's just go back real quick. This is day 5, day 6, day 7. You see what's happening there? 5, 6, 7. Notice how this builds up. I'm going to do it one more time. 5, come on, 5, 6, 7. That's really concerning to me, because if that comes in faster, stronger, larger, more influence, then Jose comes up here and makes landfall in New England. Absolutely. And the mid-Atlantic states. So, yeah, this is a problem, folks. It really is. This digging trough out here, huge amplification. You have the opposite effect here on the other side, or the ridging. And so the stronger this digs, the stronger this response will be. And Jose comes in here and gets caught, and it makes landfall as possibly a formidable hurricane. The global forecast system, we can go through that as well. This is from the 6Z run. Nope, it's the same. They're both at 0Z last night. I matched them up. So this is your 0 hour. This is 24 hours, 48, 72, 96, 120, much closer to the New York area, and then finally 144, and then 168, and it's got a little bit less ridging up here than the Euro shows. So that's a week out, so there's a lot to obviously keep in mind, or to you got to remember that the error probabilities are huge at that time. And you notice too, here comes another system way down in the deep tropics. Just so much to keep up with. So what's the takeaway from this? The takeaway is you folks up there in the northeast, and we're going to go back to the track map real quick. Mid-Atlantic states, Hatteras on north, they even say this in the discussion. If you're in this cone of uncertainty in here, you need to be thinking, I need to be ready for a potential hurricane direct impact. And there you go. That's about all I can say about it. So I just want to show you this real quick, the GFS on a different site here from the INSUP site. Watch what happens here. There's Jose, and it comes up, and takes a side swipe. But notice here, for our friends in the islands, this is what I really want you to pay attention to. 96L develops and comes into the Caribbean and then starts to make an impact there on Hispaniola. So we have Jose, we have potentially Lee sitting out here, right there, and then another system develops, that would be Maria. 3 of them at once. I mean, can you get any busier than that? I think not. Things are going to be very, very busy. So real quick, Patreon for the sustaining effort. This is my job, remember, so I work for you. So jump on the crowdfunding bandwagon. This is a neat way to support people like me in the longer term. Like public radio stations have members and they're sustaining members. Well, this is similar to that. And of course, you can just contribute via PayPal. That's an old reliable. We've been with PayPal since 2003. So I just wanted to remind you. And of course, everything we do is in our app, and we're getting a lot of good feedback about this. Always room for improvement, and not everything works perfect all the time, but it's pretty darn close. I think it did really well during Irma, and I appreciate all the support on that. So pick up our app on the App Store or Google Play. Just search for Hurricane Impact. Alrighty, now that the business side of things are done, hey, got to be able to pay the bills, pay myself a salary. I work hard at this. I enjoy it, and I appreciate being able to work for you. When people say, well, who do you work for? I'm proud to say I work for you. If you watch the videos, or even if you watch the Weather Channel, because I do contribute to the Weather Channel, and yes, I do get a paycheck from the Weather Channel from time to time. So I appreciate all of the means of making this a viable business. Now, that being said, going to have another update today. Working hard, 2 or 3 updates a day. And then I got to start thinking about maybe heading up to somewhere. Is it going to be Cape Hatteras? Is it going to be Atlantic City? Is it going to be Belmar, New Jersey, or Cape Cod, or, Providence, Rhode Island? Which is it going to be? I don't know. And if I did know, believe me, you'll be the first to know. Bottom line is we have a lot to keep up with. Jose is the next threat. A lot of stuff going on in the world, a lot of stuff going on here locally in the United States, and a lot of stuff happening across the Caribbean with the impacts of Irma. And now we have stuff coming out of the deep tropics again towards the Lesser Antilles. You can't write a script for a busier time, I think, if you tried. It's just nuts. But I'm going to stay on top of it. Next update will be later this afternoon, after the morning model suite runs from the GFS and the Euro. Those usually finish up in the early afternoon. So between 3 and 4 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll have another video for you, all right? I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. As always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll speak again around 3 or 4 o'clock today.